We can survive weeks without food and days without water, but in just a few short minutes, we would die without a breath of air. Today we have an exciting program for you in which we explore the power of air and its importance in our mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. We'll hear from someone who struggled to find time in life to simply breathe, learn the importance of quality air from our medical team, and discover delicious new recipes from the NEWSTART kitchen. All this and more on today's episode of NEWSTART Now.
In the last century, mankind has conquered some of the most extreme environments, exploring deep parts of the ocean floor, summiting the tallest mountains, and even venturing into outer space. However, one challenge had to be overcome before any of these accomplishments could be made. See, each explorer had to find a way to bring with them something essential for life: air. While simply holding our breath can be a quick reminder of the immediate importance of air for our life, it can at times be somewhat of a mystery. See, simply looking outside of an airplane window can seem like it's just a sea of nothingness, when in reality air is the very substance that not only holds up the plane, but that has allowed life on this planet to exist since the dawn of time. I'm your host, Jonathan Hunter, and today we'll be talking about air, one of the 8 components of a NEWSTART lifestyle, and the letter A in NEWSTART. First, we'll hear from a mother who discovered for herself the importance of taking a break to breathe. Let's find out more.
Through the years that I wanted to become just vegetarian, period. But it was hard trying to let go of the animal products. And so I was eating sugar, I was eating cheese here and there, and finally decided that, I didn't decide. I found out that I had a terminal illness, and I was told that they couldn't do any more treatment for me. I had had surgery, I had had several rounds of chemo, and I really was not doing well. I had fluid on the bottom part of my lung that I couldn't really breathe, so I insisted that they would do some testing because the doctor kept saying, "You're fine, you look well." Finally was able to get tested and found out that I have ovarian cancer. They did the surgery, they did the chemo, and by talking to my son-in-law that had gone to Weimar, he had mentioned that it would be a good idea to go. So when I was told that I could not have any more treatment because I was developing allergies to it, I decided, okay, I'm not looking for a cure, but I'm looking for a healthier lifestyle. So before going to Weimar, I could barely walk 30 feet without getting short of breath, very tired, and very, very depressed. I didn't realize how depressed I was. At NEWSTART, I learned a lot of good habits. I learned to walk, number one, and be able to get some good fresh air early in the morning. Also, the eating habits, healthier choices. I would choose healthier breads if I do eat a bread. More balanced meals, And I've been able to share it with my neighbors and my family members and friends. They just can't believe that I am sick, because they look at me and they say, no, you don't look sick at all. You look just as healthy as can be. I happened to find one of my neighbors that was walking by herself, and she asked me if I was going to go for a walk, and we connected and started walking together. We just kept increasing my length of the walk, and now I'm doing 6 miles. Get up early in the morning, breathe fresh, clean air, like we did at NEWSTART at Weimar. And this friend of mine, now it's become my friend, she was my neighbor. She's been able to follow my advice that I had learned from Weimar, and she's lost 20 pounds, doing the 4 miles with me in the morning, and enjoying friendship that it wouldn't have developed if I had not started the walking program at Weimar. I think that the lifestyle that NEWSTART teaches you is something that will give you years to live, much, much longer than just continuing the same bad habits that we have. So I want to thank NEWSTART for giving me a better life.
Don't you love that fresh coastal air? Breathing it in gives you that clarity of mind and new perspective that we can all use. Up next, we'll learn about the many health benefits of air from our trusted team of medical professionals.
Oh, you want me to do this thing?
Yeah, go for it.
You're serious?
Yeah. Take one.
Air quality affects our body in so many ways.
If you go without it for between 4 and 11 minutes, you can have permanent brain damage. Without it, our cells die.
Oxygen, that's the most fundamental building block of our metabolism. So if we're taking an air that's deprived of oxygen, that's going to be a negative for our whole metabolic system.
Air quality is extremely important in regarding getting enough oxygen and also getting enough of what we call the negatively charged particles. And those are, O2 negatives.
So the air that is outside is negatively charged. It has that positive effect on your body. The air inside buildings is positively charged. That's why when you're breathing the air inside, you feel foggy in your head and so forth.
And so you can go out into the forest and the air quality is better. You go to the ocean. The ocean has a lot of negative ions and ozone, and that's actually very healthy for your health also.
Quality of air has been tied to risk of diseases that involve the lungs, such as COVID recently and other things like that.
They've found that the microscopic particles that are found in pollution actually contribute to forming blood clots in our body.
Actually, a recent study that showed that people who go out in the forest for a weekend have increased immunity just breathing fresh air, even though a person who goes to the city for the same weekend and does the same amount of exercise, boom, different immunity responses.
So deep breathing is so important, not only for our lungs, for the oxygenation in our body, but it also helps with our mind clarity.
The 1/4 of your body is dedicated to bringing in oxygen and removing waste.
Taking a deep breath. And then pursing your lips, which is very easily done by just adding a little bit of restriction to the air that's going out, helps to increase the alveoli expansion, and that just oxygenates the blood.
So if we take time, on the hour to take even just 3 deep breaths.
So what atelectasis is when you're breathing sort of small volumes of oxygen or of air for long periods of time, the little air pockets in your lungs begin to collapse over time. And what's happening there is you're not exchanging as much fresh air as you could if you didn't take a deep breath.
Breathing deeply helps to stretch and open the lungs, getting oxygen to more of our system, therefore helping our mentation, helps when you take a deep breath to lower our blood pressure, calm our pulse down.
It's important for blowing off carbon dioxide, so not getting the blood too acidic.
It actually has been published in the scientific literature. As you do that deep breathing, that helps calm down your nerves. It oxygenates your brain, so your thinking becomes clear.
Some of the things you can do to improve the quality of air around you is just by taking a look around and saying, do I have enough plants in the environment?
The plants work as filters. They will filter out some of the impurities of the air and create a better air quality in the rooms and in your home where you live.
We can make sure our house is clean. We can make sure the dust is not accumulating. Dust, as I mentioned, is going to have more of your positively charged molecules.
The Japanese are doing a lot of research on this actually, is where they do something called forest bathing. And this is more of an extreme example. You don't need to necessarily go into a Japanese forest to do this. But when you go into the forest, the trees that are there, particularly fir trees, pine trees, but cypress trees, Hinoki cypress is what they looked at in this case. These trees actually give off something called phytosides, which are aromatic compounds that are produced in the trees, and they're given off. And when you breathe this in, these phytoside compounds, they go into your lungs, get into your bloodstream, and they actually activate your immune system in a way that they're like sentinels. They're awake, they're looking, and they're ready to act.
Going to the forest or going to the ocean is, for air quality, would be really some of the best places you go for ultimate health.
If you go and exercise outside in the outside air, the time to go that's the best is early in the morning, because the air quality is usually better, then it's usually cleaner. The temperature is usually cooler, so that helps. And there's been less industry, less traffic through the night and so on, so there's less pollution.
Good quality air gives you better oxygenation to your entire system. So your lungs don't have to fight as much debris, and your blood can carry the oxygen to the tissues that need it with more ease.
Hi, I'm Dr. Nedley. Did you know that without air, we all would die within minutes? Fresh air improves longevity and is healthy to the immune system, lungs, gastrointestinal tract, and heart. It is also healthy for the brain, improving learning and memory and increasing a sense of security and well-being. The air is most fresh in the outdoors by moving water, such as an ocean surf or waterfalls, or after a long rain shower or thunderstorm. Additional freshness is found around outdoor greenery, especially when close to evergreens and out in expansive green spaces. Being in the outdoors has been shown to improve or prevent 15 different diseases, including anxiety and depression. Why not go outside and take in deep breaths of fresh air today?
It's amazing how air can have such an impact on our longevity. The fresh mountain air has allowed the Methuselah trees around me to live almost 5,000 years and become some of the world's oldest living trees. Although the air up here is fresh and crisp, I think I smell some of Fito's rice cooking in the NEWSTART kitchen. Let's go take a look.
Welcome to the NEWSTART kitchen. My name is Rodolfo, and today I'm going to be showing you how to prepare Mexican fried rice. And this is the healthy version of the recipe because we're going to do this without oil, and we are also going to be using whole grain rice. And the secret to this recipe is to first toast the grain instead of frying it. So we are going to be using a non-stick pan like this. We're going to add the rice. And we're gonna start playing with it because we want it to be toasty, even all over. While that is heating up, we're gonna go ahead and start with the rest of our ingredients. You're gonna need tomato, onion, and some garlic. We're just gonna mix all of this, including the garlic, and a little bit of water, just like that. Let's go ahead and put this here. This is the perfect side dish for enchiladas. It's gonna be full of color, fluffy, very nice, you'll see. Now, once our grain is toasty, and you can hear how the grains start to pop, that tells you that it is ready. Just like popcorn, it'll start popping. And you don't want to take it too far because it'll turn dark. You don't want that. Just want that even brown color over the rice. Once that is ready, we're gonna add this mixture. And here's the secret. When you add it, we're gonna mix everything until the tomato cooks. And it'll change color. It will turn red. Dark red. This is why Mexican fried rice has that red color. Need to be very patient here. Move this. I can already see it's turning red and smells amazing. This is the smell that reminds me of my home back in Mexico. It is ready. We're going to add this. And some vegetable seasoning. I'm going to mix that. Can you see all that red? That's going to be the color of our rice when it's done. Now we're going to wait a little bit because just before it starts boiling, we'll be adding more color. Vegetables. I have here a combination of corn, carrots, green peas, and we're going to add that to the mix. And as soon as it starts boiling, we'll add a little bit of flavor with the cilantro. And once we do that, we're gonna cover it, and then we're gonna turn down the heat, and we're gonna let it cook for a while. just about now. Here we are. Low heat. We'll be right back and we're going to show you the final product. And here we have it. This is our final product. And as you can see, all that texture and the colors, different vegetables right here. This is an excellent side dish for your enchiladas. This is what you want to serve your enchiladas with. And as you can see, you can combine not only these vegetables, but you can only use the corn, or if you want to use only the carrot or the peas, it works fine. So I hope you enjoy it.
Welcome back. The great thing about that recipe is that you won't end up as big as General Sherman here, the world's biggest tree. And you'll avoid the brain fog that often comes with eating unhealthy foods. Up next, Dr. Neil Nedley will share another way to avoid this mental unclarity through, you guessed it, air.
With us today, we have Dr. Neil Nedley, who is the president of the Weimar Institute, in addition to being the founder and director of the Nedley Depression and Anxiety Recovery Program. He is also working here on the campus in his outpatient clinic, seeing patients in the community, in addition to working as a hospitalist in the Auburn community. And we're very grateful to have him with us today. He's very busy often, doing presentations and traveling around quite a bit. So we're thankful to have you with us in the studio today.
Thank you, Matthew.
So something we've been talking about is fresh air. And we obviously know that fresh air has a profound effect on our bodies. But we're wondering what kind of effects it has on the mind specifically.
Well, it's actually mood elevating, and it's actually been shown to improve our learning capacity. And fresh air, it particularly is induced or produced as a result of what we call negative ions. And this will happen when we have a moving ocean surf, when we have waterfalls, evergreen trees, even after a thunderstorm. All that lightning actually produces these negative ions. And if you go outside after a thunderstorm and breathe very deeply, there's something just mood elevating about that and very refreshing. And so, and of course the opposite can also occur, positive ions. And this is what can happen in desert storms. And it's been known, particularly in the Middle East, before the dust of that storm actually gets there, these positive ions are ahead of the dust storm. And for maybe even an hour before the dust arrives, people's moods will just plummet. They'll get angry and irritable, and they're not even sure why, but it's due to what is in the air, that lack of fresh air, the very opposite of what we get when there's a lot of greenery around.
Wow, so having things like large bodies of water, greenery, you mentioned, breathing in deeply after like a rainstorm or something like that can really have quite a positive effect on our mental health.
It can, yes.
So you do a program here called the Nedley Depression and Anxiety Recovery Program, and we understand that one of the components you teach your patients about is fresh air.
Yes.
And we're wondering if maybe you could tell us a little bit about how fresh air relates to depression, and in what ways someone who's depressed might alter how they're breathing in order to have a more positive effect.
Well, one of the things we teach them in regards to breathing is to breathe very deeply. In fact, often when you're outside, it's good to reduce the number of breaths per minute so that you're breathing deeply. And so we'll recommend practicing, so you're breathing maybe 3 times a minute, no more than 6 times a minute. And so, of course, that would be, a breath every 10 seconds. And if you're doing it every 3 times a minute, that's every 20 seconds. So that's breathing very deeply. Oxygen saturation goes up when you do that. The ability to get rid of toxins and carbon dioxide in our pulmonary system actually is improved as well. And this is something we can just remind ourselves to do. You know, in our sedentary society, there's a lot of people that don't deep breathe. They don't exercise that much. And if we aren't exercising, it's good at least every hour to try to get to a place where there's some fresh plants and some greenery around, and take 3 deep breaths using a whole minute for that. And it can change your mood instantaneously.
Wow. So the average human, how many times are they breathing per minute? Because you mentioned that you're having some people breathe 3 times or 6 times a minute, which seems like a rather low amount to be breathing each minute.
Yeah, average is 12 to 16 times a minute when people aren't thinking about it.
I see.
But when you actually think about breathing deep, there are sustained benefits beyond just that time when you're breathing deeply. A lot of people think, okay, that's helped me for now, but those benefits actually last an entire hour.
So you recommended doing it, you said about once every hour for about a minute, breathing deeply?
Those 3 deep breaths, 1 every 20 seconds or so, for that entire minute. And then if you're studying or doing other sedentary things, taking that break and doing it on the hour is often the best way.
Maybe getting up and combining it with some sort of study break, or walking around and getting both.
Exactly, yes, because sitting itself can prevent us from getting as deep a breath as we would otherwise when we're standing as well.
Fascinating. So you can kind of just combine the two together.
There you go.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And up next, we have Dr. K, who's going to be sharing about oxygenation and our cells.
Hi there, I'm Dr. Kuninobu. Why is fresh air so important to our bodies? The main reason is oxygen. Every cell in our body needs energy to stay alive. That energy comes from glucose, and oxygen is needed to release that energy from glucose. Think of it like the flame of a candle. If you remove the supply of oxygen to the candle, the flame dies. Remove the oxygen supply to our cells, and we die. Let's be sure to get daily doses of fresh air.
Ever since I was young, I've been fascinated with air. You can't touch it, but you can feel its presence. You can't see it, but you can see the impact it has on the world around us. From raising hot air balloons into the sky to sustaining life as we know it, the power of air is truly breathtaking. I think I'm going to take the doctor's advice and spend some quiet time out here in the cool, fresh air, while Dean Cullinan shares about the relationship between spirituality and air.
Now, the average life expectancy varies depending on where you live and the lifestyle that you adopt. But for most, it's between 70 and 80 years. I would argue, however, that it's actually between 30 seconds and 2 minutes, except every time we breathe, that number resets. You see, breathing is essential to living. When we breathe in, oxygen is added to our bloods and the poisonous carbon dioxide within our lungs is dispelled. You simply cannot survive without breathing. And so it is with prayer. Prayer is the breath of the soul. And in neglecting prayer, we have put our own knees on the necks of our spiritual lives. Our souls are crying out saying, I can't breathe. And when something cannot breathe, it dies. Just as breathing is easy, so is prayer. In fact, prayer is just speaking to God in the same way you would a friend. It doesn't have to be long and eloquent. God just wants to hear you speak to Him. Remember the Apostle Peter, when drowning, only prayed 3 simple words, Lord, save me. And God heard that prayer. In fact, Paul says in Romans chapter 8 and verse 26 that the Spirit takes our prayers, as imperfect as they may sound, and presents them to the Father in heaven. Jesus sends us the Holy Spirit to help us breathe, to help us to pray. Prayer is the air for the soul. Would you like to take some time, maybe today, to let your soul breathe? This could be the new start that your spiritual life so desperately needs.
From hot air balloons, airplanes, and skydiving to ancient forests, we've discovered the power of air and the important role it plays on our daily lives and health. Perhaps you have some more questions about air or other health principles and would like something a little bit more in depth. Well, we'd like to invite you to become a part of our NEWSTART online family. Our program features 40+ health presentations pre-recorded by our NEWSTART medical team, delicious whole food plant-based recipes from the NEWSTART kitchen, and more of the resources and encouragement needed to make a change in your life that will last. All this and more is just a few clicks away, so use the link below to get started with your online journey today and use the promo code NEWSTARTNOW to get 10% off your first subscription. Until next time, I'm your host, Jonathan Hunter, reminding you about the importance of air and to sometimes just take a break and breathe. And reminding you that it's never too late to make a new start now.
I came to NEWSTART because the UCLA team said it's time for a transplant, to have a double transplant I have a lung transplant. And I was a little nervous and I said, well, let me come to NEWSTART. And it's been a blessing because my inflammation was extremely high and now it has come down to 3. Instead of 8, it's down to 3. And so with the test, the excellent test results, I am able to go back to UCLA and hold off on that transplant and live an awesome life. So thank you, NEWSTART, for a brand new life and to live an awesome journey.
My experience here has been the best medical experience I've ever had in my entire life. There were some goals that I had, and they are directly related to the fact that in the last 3 years, I've had about 35 to 40 ER visits because of severe allergies. And while being here and being out in the nature and being able to grow closer to the Lord in terms of trusting the staff here and trusting my fellow peers, there were significant changes. And I could see that I was breathing better, I was able to tolerate certain environmental things better, and the doctors have assured me that as long as I stick to the program, things will continue to improve.